Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Last Thursday, I made a bold statement, and I pretty much immediately regretted it after I made this statement because it's a little bit too clear, And I was putting myself out there. I thought Bitcoin was likely to go up a lot higher next week. Sometimes when price is a little bit too far overextended about the Ichimoku Tenkan, this is my rationale, right? This is the Ichimoku cloud here. Tenkan is the blue line up here. Sometimes when things are a little bit too overextended away from the blue line, things either catch up to the blue line, either by price going sideways and wait for the Tenkan to catch up over time, or it drops down and touch the Tenkan down below and use that as support to go higher, right? This is generally how a bull trend generally happens. Well, we were overextended away from the Tenkan here for a very long time, for many weeks. And as a result, I thought that we're getting close to the end of the line here because there's really not much volume here over the last few weeks at all. The consolidation looked like it's almost going to be over. On top of that, also, when I did the calculation in terms of where the Tenkan and the blue line is going to be next week, which is this week, right? I really thought the Tenkan is going to be upwards, up around 102,400, which is based on pure calculations. These are all pure math. And if the blue line is going to be up into 102,400s, I think price could meet that, use that as support, and balance out a lot higher. Right? That's my initial thought. On top of it, I also thought that, with that said, even though I thought that it was going to bounce off the Tenkan because the Tenkan is rising next week, or this week, they can always do a scary flush down before pumping things a lot higher. But I think, personally, think that something big is happening as soon as next week, which is this week. What happened? We have a big, giant, scary flush down over the weekend that it was difficult to forget. This is the hourly chart of Bitcoin. You remember that big, giant flush that happened this past weekend, and then we basically essentially made a V-shaped recovery back up after we grab a lot of liquidity here down below. This is a beautiful bounce, by the way. But a lot of volatility had happened over the weekend. And this Gann chart over here is still not broken, even though a lot of people over the weekend basically just completely give up and they capitulated and they basically became extremely bearish over Bitcoin. But to me, I think it was just backtesting a support level. Arc after arc after arc after arc, once you break it and backtest it over here, it went up to the next level, right? Here, what did we do? We broke the arc here and we backtested the arc here a couple of times over here. And as far as I'm concerned, this market symmetry is still very much intact because we basically broke about this arc over here and backtested as support. Resistance flip support is a bullish thing. And even backtested again on Monday, and we were able to hold support. Last week, I thought they would touch the angle here for sure around 102. I just didn't know it was going to flush necessarily all the way down to the arc here. I thought there's a possibility that it does, but I didn't know that it was going to or not. Of course they're going to do that because it's low volume conditions. It's the weekend. They decided to flush down and they decided to really destroy you. That's exactly what happened, right? Whip up both sides, got below the arc here, got everybody all bearish, got everybody all shorting, and the next thing you know, reverse everything and hit retail shorters again, right? What are we having here? We bounce off very, very strong support here. We even break back above the angle over here. This opens up for a possibility for things to go up a lot higher. What did I say earlier about the Ichimoku cloud and the Tenkan, right? If I pull up the Tenkan line and the Kijun line, you can see that, as expected, Tenkan did rise to 102,400. Price broke down underneath of that. Price actually started the week underneath of the Tenkan, and I was like, man, now the Tenkan is going to end up flipping from like support over here, which bounced off it perfectly, by the way. It bounced off the Tenkan here perfectly. Almost perfectly, not perfectly. And price still ended up opening the week underneath of that. And initially I was like, oh man, mad speed, we're going to open the week is going to be underneath the rising Tenkan. That's going to be resistance here. But just on today, we're able to break through the Tenkan here. We got above of it right now. We're way above of that right now. And currently, while we're doing that, on the monthly, it still looks a little bit overextended, but the Tenkan here is rising, and I think when the month is over, this candle's not going to be counted anymore. The Tenkan is going to keep rising. I think the price is going to end up having more support down below to keep pushing up higher over time. And this is a good thing. And if you're also going back to the weekly here, look at some of the important fib level support. For example, if I was going to look at, let me see here, if I was going to look at something here, which is the previous cycle high here to the cycle low, and you're looking at the very, very important level of 1.272, we have really trying to break above that level, and we were trying to hold that as support for many weeks. We had a breakdown, and I think this breakdown was a little bit of a false breakdown, and right now we're getting back above of it. As long as price is able to close and continue to close above the 1.272, then I think it gravitates up to the next levels, right? So things are looking much better just by the matter of just a day, and also the fundamental narrative has also just completely flipped around already just from tonight, right? There's a ceasefire that has been talked about, and the technicals has basically just been going down to test support and then come back up once you find support. There is really no mystery here. If you're looking at my Ichimoku, not Ichimoku, you look at my Gann square, there's really absolutely no mystery here at all. It looks like it's following market symmetry exactly as how it was intended, and because you're finding support here at the arc, you also bounce back up above the angle. The next level that it should gravitate up to would be this horizontal level up here, which is going to be 101.17 based on Gann on this chart over here. But on the monthly Gann chart that I have, I have target as high as really around 200,000. You can see how this Gann on my monthly here ever since 2012 has been hitting arc after arc after arc after backtest arc, going to the next arc, breakthrough arc, backtest arc. Probably going to go to the next arc here, but we do have a resistance level up here around 200,000. I think that's going to be a pretty important resistance zone. Once you get up there, I don't know how it's going to react. We may end up getting rejected and go down a lot lower, try and find support. We may break through it and backtest it before we come higher. I do not know how it's going to react. All I know is that's going to be the next level that it's probably going to end up gravitating up to, and that could probably end up happening maybe either sometime later this year or sometime in 2026. Hard for me to say for sure. But currently, market symmetry is telling us that it's going to go up. And I still don't think that a lot of people are worried that Bitcoin's going to go down a lot lower and that the cycle's over. I just don't really see that happening. The other thing, too, you generally don't get the cycle over until Bitcoin dominance starts dropping and money starts rotating to altcoin. That hasn't really happened yet. Bitcoin dominance has been just going straight up here for about 2 years. It has shown no sign of weakness here at all whatsoever. And it's hitting a very important resistance zone here at 0.786. This could be it. We could end up topping here with Bitcoin dominance, and this could be it. But there's no guarantee, right? Who knows? The only thing I can really say is I see that Ethereum dominance here is also kind of changing trend. It has a big giant downslope here for a very, very long time. But if you're also looking at some lower time frame, shifts here, I see that there is a little bit of a shift here. You start forming a little bit of higher high here compared to that. You start forming maybe a little bit of higher low over here compared to that. Maybe we're seeing a little bit of a shift in trend here because it's just been going straight down here on the 2-day here. This is the first bounce it really has had. And currently, we're also holding the old bullish band here on the 2-day chart here extremely well. So it does make me wonder whether or not we're going to go down here and then we end up just pushing up about back to the 40-day moving average, and then actually end up having the bullish expansion with price going, not price, with the Bitcoin dominance going to an upside. Not Bitcoin dominance, Ethereum dominance going to an upside. That's what it's looking like it could happen to me. I really do think that we might be shifting a little bit of a trend here when it comes to what I'm looking at here, both in terms of Bitcoin as well as Bitcoin dominance, and also looking on the flip side of the coin, look at Ethereum dominance. It started to show a little bit of a strength here on a lower time frame. I am still very bullish overall on the market. I still think that this thing is going to go up higher. But what is also stopping Bitcoin from going up higher right now, which I think will reverse soon, is that on the 2-day Bollinger Band here being shown, you're still underneath the 40-day moving average. You can see how Whenever things are above the 40-day moving average, good things happen. Whenever things get underneath of it, bad things happen. Right now, we lost momentum. We got underneath of it. We're able to hold a lower Bollinger Band here, which gives us a chance to break back above and maybe even back test it and go higher. But we need to do that. I think that we're probably going to end up doing that. You know why I think that is? Because we have a bullish engulfing candle here for the 2-day here. That's just end up closing, yesterday. So I think that we got a good chance here to really break above the 40-day moving average, reclaim it, and resume the bull trend, which is generally what is required for things to go up a lot higher. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end the video here. I don't want to keep you here for too long, but I am still pretty bullish about Bitcoin. Just wanted to show you the rationale for what I said last week. That seems to be playing out. Let's hope it continues to play out, guys. Have a good one. Bye.